My husband left me for my best friend. They both made the same mistake. A story about double betrayal, calculated silence, and what comes after Marina didn't find out from a text message. Not from a phone call. Not because her husband confessed. She found out from a photo on her best friend's phone. Her best friend of 17 years. The woman who held her hand in the delivery room. The woman who knew every secret she had ever kept. In the photo was her husband and her friend, and they were clearly not just talking. Marina stood in the middle of her friend's kitchen. They'd stopped by to pick up something, and looked at the screen of someone else's phone. Her hands didn't shake. She didn't cry. She set the phone back down on the table and walked out to the street. It was raining. She didn't open her umbrella. Today I'm going to tell you Marina's story. A story about what happens when the two people you trusted most in the world betray you at the same time, and about what a woman does when she decides not to scream, but to think. Part 1. The Perfect Life. How it all looked from the outside. Marina was 38. From the outside, her life looked sordid. Her husband, Daniel, was 42, a department head at a mid-sized construction company. They had a 13-year-old daughter who got good grades and took dance classes, an apartment in a good neighborhood, a car, a holiday house, the kind of life people call normal. She'd met Daniel at 23, through mutual friends at someone's birthday party. He was funny and confident back then, the kind of person who could tell a story and make everyone laugh. Marina fell for him quickly. 2 years later, they were married. 3 years after that, their daughter was born. The early years were alive. Arguments and reconciliations, shared plans, things discovered together. Then life became more predictable. Daniel worked, Marina worked, their daughter grew up, weekends followed a pattern. They didn't fight, but they didn't burn either. They just lived alongside each other. Marina felt it, but she told herself, this is how it is after 15 years of marriage. This is normal. Everyone goes through this. The best friend Sophie had been in Marina's life since university. Same department, same dormitory, everything shared. Sophie was different. Bright, loud, easy. Where Marina thought before she spoke, Sophie had already spoken. Where Marina hesitated, Sophie acted. They complemented each other the way only genuinely close people do. 17 years of friendship. That's not just a number. It meant Sophie knew everything about Marina. She knew how Marina cried after her first miscarriage. She knew what Marina didn't say to her husband. She knew when Marina felt lonely inside her own marriage. Sophie was single. A few relationships, none of them serious. Marina sometimes thought Sophie just hadn't found her person yet. It never occurred to her, not once, that there might be another explanation. Daniel and Sophie had known each other as long as Marina had been married, 15 years. They got along the way a husband and a wife's best friend get along. At shared dinners, at birthdays, the occasional joke. Nothing unusual, nothing worth noticing. Or maybe Marina just wasn't looking closely enough. Part 2. The Signs She Missed. Small shifts. Looking back, the signs were there. They always are. In the moment, each one had an explanation. Daniel started coming home later. Explanation. A project under pressure, a deadline, the usual. Marina didn't ask too many questions. She worked too, and she knew what busy periods felt like. He started looking at his phone more. But who doesn't look at their phone constantly these days? Once, Marina caught him smiling at something on his screen, the way he hadn't smiled at her in a long time. She thought, someone probably sent him something funny, and she forgot about it. Sophie started taking longer to reply. Before, she almost always picked up or called back within the hour. Now sometimes a whole day would pass. Sorry, I was busy, and that was it. At Marina's birthday that year, Sophie arrived 2 hours late, said it was traffic. She seemed distracted and left early. Marina didn't think much of it. None of these small things formed a picture. Because Marina wasn't looking for a picture. She had no reason to. The moment that changed everything. It was an ordinary Thursday. Marina stopped by Sophie's place to pick up a book Sophie had been meaning to return for weeks. Sophie opened the door, walked her to the kitchen, put the kettle on. Then went to the other room to get the book. Sophie's phone was on the kitchen table. The screen lit up with a notification. Marina wasn't trying to look. Her eyes just fell on it automatically. The name on the screen, Dan. And the first words of the message, visible in the preview without opening it. Marina read them once. She didn't need to read them again. When Sophie came back with the book, Marina was standing at the window, looking at the street. She took the book, said, "Thanks, I have to run," left. She sat in her car for 10 minutes without starting the engine. Then she started it, drove home. Daniel was home, eating dinner, asked how Sophie was. Marina said, "Fine." She didn't say another word about it that evening. Part 3. Silence as Strategy. Why she didn't say anything. The first question you might ask, why didn't she scream? Why didn't she cause a scene? Why didn't she call Sophie and say everything she was thinking? Marina explained it later like this. In that moment, she felt that screaming was exactly what they expected. That if she screamed, cried, made a scene, she'd become the hysterical wife, and the whole story would be told from the angle of her reaction rather than their actions. She didn't want that. She wanted to understand, how long had it been going on? How far had it gone? And what she was going to do about it. For the next 3 weeks, Marina lived in 2 realities simultaneously. On the surface, normal life, work, her daughter, dinners, small talk. Underneath, she was methodically gathering information. She didn't go through Daniel's phone. She knew that would give her facts, but not the full picture. She observed. When he was texting, how he looked at his phone. When he stayed late. How he behaved around Sophie at the gatherings she now understood were happening far more often than she'd known. What she found out. Within 2 weeks, the picture was clear. It had been going on for over a year. They met when Marina was at work, sometimes when Daniel allegedly stayed late at the office, a few times when Sophie had told Marina she was away for the weekend. Marina remembered those weekends. She'd called Sophie. Sophie had answered, said she was in another city visiting family. Her voice had been normal, lying that had become automatic. The hardest part wasn't that it was happening. The hardest part was realizing how many times over that year Sophie had sat beside her, listened to her, hugged her, knowing all along. Choosing every single day to keep going. Marina understood. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't one thing led to another. It was a decision. Made twice, by her husband and by her best friend. And made again repeatedly for over a year. Part 4. The Conversation. She chose her moment. Marina didn't make a scene in front of her daughter. She didn't call Sophie in the middle of the night. She waited for a Saturday when her daughter was staying at her grandmother's. She made lunch. They sat down to eat. Halfway through the meal, she said, "Daniel, I know about you and Sophie. I've known for 3 weeks. And I need you to tell me everything right now. Not because I'm demanding it, but because after this conversation, I'm going to make a decision. And I need to make it knowing the truth. Not your version of the truth. The truth." Daniel went pale. Then started with, "It's not what you think." Marina stopped him with a single gesture. "Don't. I saw the message. I know how long it's been going on. I don't need explanations. I need honesty. Just once." He talked for a long time. Marina listened, barely interrupting, asked precise questions. When he finished, she stood up, cleared the plates, and said, "Okay, I need time to think. Stay here for now, but in the other room. You don't contact Sophie anymore. That's not negotiable." The conversation with Sophie. Marina met Sophie 3 days later. Not at home, at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Sophie arrived with red eyes. Apparently Daniel had warned her. She started talking immediately from the doorway. "Marina, I'm so sorry. I don't know how this happened. It was a mistake." Marina cut her off, quietly, without anger. "Sophie, you knew everything about me. You knew when I was lonely in my marriage. You knew the things I couldn't say to my husband. You used that. I don't want to hear how it happened. I want to say one thing to you. You made a choice. Not once, every single day for over a year. That's not a mistake. That was you." Sophie started crying. Marina didn't hug her. She finished her coffee, stood up. "I wish you well, but we're done." She walked out of the coffee shop and never called again. Part 5. After. The decision Marina took 3 months to decide. That wasn't weakness. It was respect for what 15 years had built. For her daughter. For herself. Daniel tried during that time. Flowers, conversations, Therapy. He suggested therapy, she agreed. They went for several months. Marina was honest at every session. In the end, she knew. She could forgive the act, but she couldn't rebuild the trust. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how, and she wasn't sure it was possible at all after something like this. They divorced. Calmly. No war over assets, no using their daughter as a weapon. Daniel rented a flat nearby. Their daughter sees him every week. Daniel and Sophie never became a couple. That came out a few months later. He had different plans. She had different expectations. Everything they had destroyed to be together didn't add up to anything. Marina now. 2 years have passed. Marina lives with her daughter. She works. She got a dog. She'd always wanted one. Daniel had been against it. She goes to yoga on Saturday mornings. She recently started writing, just for herself in a notebook. She says the strangest discovery was this. She thought the betrayal would break her. Instead, it brought her back to herself. To what she actually wants. To the kind of person she wants to be. She doesn't regret not screaming that Thursday. She doesn't regret giving herself time to think. She doesn't regret choosing honesty over war. Betrayal is always about them. How you handle it is always about you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this story resonated, leave a comment below. I read every single one. See you in the next video.